Hey everybody, this is Mr. US History. Welcome back to a brand new video. And in this video, I'm going to be taking a look at the 2024 House as well as the 2024 Senate elections. And let's start with the Senate elections. The states which I've already characterized are going to go to the party by roughly a 90% chance or more. These are states which the other party has virtually no chance of winning. Like, Democrats are not going to win in West Virginia no matter what, considering how Joe Manchin is retiring. And there's no scenario where Republicans win in a state like Vermont or in Massachusetts. So these are states that are very safe for the party. And then these remaining states I'm going to characterize. First, I'll start with the likely states, which are going to go to one party by a roughly 70 to 90% chance. And then the lean states, which are going to go to one party by a 60 to 70% chance. I don't believe that there are going to be any tilt states, which is a 50% chance to a 60% chance in this Senate cycle. So let's start with the likely Democrat states. These are states like New Mexico, Minnesota, as well as Virginia. These are states which the Democrats are pretty strong in these states. These are all blue states. However, at the same time, they're not solid blue states like California and New York. However, there are also the Democrat incumbents in these states are very entrenched. Tim Kaine in Virginia is very entrenched. So is Martin Heinrich in New Mexico and Amy Klobuchar in Minnesota. They're all very entrenched, but at the same time, Tim Kaine and Martin Heinrich do actually face strong Republican opponents, with Hung Kao and Nella Dominici in both of these states are particularly strong candidates. In Minnesota, Amy Klobuchar does not face a strong candidate. Her opponent is relatively weak. However, at the same time, this is a presidential year, so I think that these three states are going to be somewhat close, considering how in presidential years you don't see vast outperformances like we used to. But again, I think the Democrats are realistically going to win all three of these Senate seats. And then in Texas and Florida, we can say the same thing about Republicans there. Democrats have tried to field strong challengers in Texas and Florida, and they haven't really done so. I mean, Colin Allred and Debbie Murkowski-Powell, I think that's how you pronounce it. They're not really the best candidates there, but at the same time, they're not necessarily that weak. But I don't think that either of them has what it takes to defeat Ted Cruz or Rick Scott. And while those two incumbents, again, are not particularly strong, keep in mind this is still a presidential year, and Trump is certainly going to win Florida and Texas. And both of these states have been trending to the right, with Florida looking like it's going to become a red state instead of the formerly swing state that it once was. And Texas, it appears to be somewhat moving to the left, but I don't think it's going to be enough so in 2024. Democrats can win the Senate seat in a much more better year for them, like a blue wave year. But in 2024, I don't think they can defeat Ted Cruz in Texas. So let's look at these remaining states, which I think are going to be lean states in the sense that they go to one party by roughly a 60 to 70% chance. These are states like Arizona, Nevada, Wisconsin, Michigan, as well as Pennsylvania. I think Democrats are going to win these states they have a 60 to 70% chance of winning these states, especially, and now let me go through each of them one by one. In Pennsylvania, Bob Casey is, again, very entrenched there. Same thing in Wisconsin with Tammy Baldwin. I don't think either of them are going to lose. They're going to outperform Kamala Harris in the rural parts of the states. I think Bob Casey is going to do very well in northeastern Pennsylvania, and Tammy Baldwin is going to do well in the Driftless area. But at the same time, it is a presidential year, and I don't think either of them are going to outperform Kamala Harris by a vast amount, like 10 percentage points or so. But again, they are more likely than not going to win these races. In the state of Nevada, Jackie Rosen is the candidate there. I think she does much better in Clark County than Kamala Harris does with the Hispanics in Las Vegas. But at the same time, I don't think it is going to be enough for her to win the state by a likely margin, but she still probably outperforms Kamala Harris in the state. And then, as for the states of Michigan and Arizona, both of these states have Democratic incumbents who are retiring, but in the state of Arizona, Republicans haven't really fielded a strong candidate in Kari Lake. For whatever reason, Arizona Republicans are never able to find the right candidate, whether it was in 2020 with Martha McSally, 2022 with Blake Masters for the Senate and Kari Lake for the governor's race, and now 2024 where they decided to nominate Kari Lake again, despite the fact that she lost the governor's race in 2022 in what was a pretty winnable race. But still, Kari Lake is not going to win the Arizona Senate election. I think Ruben Gallego wins, not by as much as some people think he's going to win by, but still, I think Gallego wins. Polling averages in Arizona have Gallego winning by about 7 points, while Trump is winning the state by about like 1 to 2 points in those same polls. But yeah, I think that Arizona, Gallego is going to win there. Alright, now we have the state of Michigan, which I already characterized as lean blue. Michigan, the incumbent there is, I believe it's Debbie Stabenow, but she is now retired. And it is an open race between Mike Rogers and Elissa Slotkin. But I think Elissa Slotkin is ultimately going to be able to win. She has done very well in her congressional races and has outperformed Democrats at the top of the ticket, especially in 2020, where she did better than Joe Biden in her district. And I think it's going to be the same thing in the Senate election. So now we have the state of Montana and Ohio. I think both of these states are going to go Republican by lean margins. Montana, the polls there have Jon Tester losing, and I believe them. I think Tester may even lose by more than what the polls are indicating. Keep in mind, this is now a presidential election year, and unlike 2018, where Jon Tester did not have Trump on the ballot, and also at the same time, Tester was facing a very weak and underfunded Republican candidate. This time he is facing a much stronger and much more funded Republican candidate in Tim Sheehy. Republicans are investing more resources there than they did in 2018. It is not a blue wave anymore. And plus, keep in mind, in 2012, Tester was able to win, but 2024 is a much more polarizing year than 2012 was. And in 2020, keep in mind, the Montana Senate election there was supposed to be competitive, with the popular Democrat governor Steve Bullock running to challenge Steve Daines, but it ultimately did not pan out, with Daines winning by roughly 10 percentage points. So, yeah, in a presidential year, I think Jon Tester is going to lose the Senate seat, and he may even lose by a likely margin when it's all said and done, but I think for now, I'm going to put it as lean red. As for the state of Ohio, again, many polls here have actually had Sherrod Brown winning the state, but Ohio polling has historically overestimated Democrats, and at the same time, I don't see Sherrod Brown outperforming Kamala Harris by 8 points. Yes, he may be strong in some of the rural areas, but I don't think it is going to be enough to win the state and outperform Harris by 8 points. And keep in mind also in 2012, when Sherrod Brown was running, when Obama was on the ticket against Mitt Romney, Brown only outperformed Obama by about 2 percentage points. So, yeah, and keep in mind, the Republican in that election was not as well funded as Bernie Moreno is this time around. So I think that Republicans are going to win the Senate by flipping Ohio and Montana, as well as West Virginia. Now let's get into the House elections. I already characterized the likely states in this election because there are just way too many House seats that are up for grabs. So let's just go over the lean or tilt House seats. Let's start off with Washington's 3rd Congressional District. Republicans made the mistake of nominating Joe Kent again, and this did not work out well for them in 2022. And I don't think it's going to work out well for them again in 2024. And I think that Kent is going to lose, and the Democrats are going to retain that seat. As for Oregon, I think that Lori Chavez DeRemer actually loses her seat in Oregon 7th, because unlike 2022, where Republicans almost won the governor election, and that candidate was able to carry Republicans like Lori Chavez DeRemer down ballot, this time she has to share a ballot with Donald Trump. And in a state like Oregon, I don't think that's going to work out that well for her, as it did back in 2022. Montana, I think this goes red by a narrow margin. It could be by a bigger margin, but for some reason, Ryan Zinke is not able to win by much in this pretty red congressional district. And then in California, I think that David Valadao is going to win narrowly, as he has in the past. But however, on the other hand, I think that John Duarte is going to lose. This is 2024, not 2022, where Duarte was benefited by Brian Dahle, who was on the top of the ticket and did pretty well against Gavin Newsom. This time, he has to share a ballot with Donald Trump, and again, while sharing a ballot with Donald Trump may help for Republicans in red districts, it's not going to help for Republicans in blue districts. So, yeah. And then in Southern California, I think Republicans are going to win with Ken Calvert as well as Michelle Steele, but I don't think they are going to flip this Southern District, which was formerly held by Katie Porter. It is based in Orange County, where Republicans have been making a resurgence, but this is still a congressional district that went to Joe Biden by a pretty convincing amount back in 2020. So I don't think that Republicans are going to flip it yet. And then in the state of Alaska, even though Mary Peltola did well in the primary, getting over 50% of the vote in a jungle primary where she goes against Republicans, I don't think that she's going to win it at the end of the day, because keep in mind, the primary was relatively low turnout, and I think at the end of the day, Nick Begich III is going to win the Alaska House election, because unlike back in 2022 where Republicans were divided, this time that's not the case, and there's just one Republican running. So without the vote being split like it did back in 2022, I don't even think ranked choice voting is going to come into play here. I think Begich gets a majority. Considering how Trump is going to win Alaska by about 12 points, I think Begich is ultimately going to be able to win. And then in Arizona, I think that this district is going to go to the Republicans by a tilt margin. I think David Schweikert narrowly wins once again, but then he probably loses in 2026 if Trump wins the White House. And Juan Ciscomani, I think he wins as well. In this district in New Mexico, I think Gabe Vasquez is going to hold on. I didn't think he was going to win in 2022. He surprised me, so I think he's going to win again this time. In Colorado's 8th, Democrats are going to hold this one. Again, I did not expect this to go blue back in 2022, but it did. So, yeah, and then Nebraska's 2nd, I think that Don Bacon is going to hold this. He was able to win by sharing the ballot with Trump in 2020, and I think he'll be able to do the same again in 2024. And then Iowa, I think that Zach Nunn is going to be able to win. Same thing with Derek Van Orden in Wisconsin. And then we get to Michigan. I think John James is going to win his Senate election, his House election there. He won it very, very narrowly back in 2022, but he had to share the ballot with Tudor Dixon. So that did not work out for him, of course. However, these other two districts, which are currently held by Democrats, I think Democrats are going to hold them this time around again. And then in Ohio, I think that Democrats hold both of their congressional districts there, because even though she's in a red district, Mary Kaptur has just been able to win this district convincingly, and I think she's an electoral juggernaut in this area. And the same thing over here. I think Sherrod Brown being on the ticket is going to help Democrats in Ohio down ballot when it comes to House elections. And then in Maine, I think that Republicans are going to lose this congressional district to Jared Golden, who seems to be an electoral juggernaut in this district. In Connecticut, I think Jayana Hayes wins. This is a presidential year, not a midterm year, so she's going to fare better in a district that Biden won convincingly back in 2020. And then, as for these seats in New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania, I think that Brandon Williams is going to lose. This has become a much more blue district than it was back in 2022. And Williams outperformed Zeldin by a lot in this district. So I think that Williams is going to lose this time around. And on the other hand, though, I think Mark Molinaro is going to win, because this is a district that has gotten redder after the redistricting in New York in 2023. So I think Molinaro holds on. Pat Ryan, he probably wins re-election. I think Mike Lawler is going to win, although very narrowly. And as for these two districts in Long Island Republicans really lucked out there for the House in 2022, where Lee Zeldin did very well there. This time that's not going to be the case. They're sharing a ballot with Donald Trump, not Lee Zeldin. So I think the Democrats are going to hold on to New York's 3rd, which was formerly held by George Santos, but then he got expelled. And then as for New York's 4th, I think Anthony D'Esposito loses re-election. On the other hand, though, New Jersey's 3rd congressional district, I think this goes narrowly to the Republicans, and that gives them 218 seats in the House. I think Thomas Keene is going to win re-election, mostly because of his last name, but also because, again, this is not that blue of a congressional district. And then and these two districts in northeastern Pennsylvania. I think Republicans hold on, Democrats hold on there. They were able to win in a presidential year in 2020 where they outperformed Biden, so I don't see any reason why they won't be able to outperform Harris this time around. And then in Virginia, I think that Abigail Spanberger's former district, she is now retired. I think Democrats hold on there. And as for Jen Kiggans, I think she's also able to hold on in her district in the Chesapeake Bay part of Virginia. And then as for North Carolina's 1st congressional district, this district has become more red following the recent redistricting there, where Republicans kind of gerrymandered the state. But I think that Don Davis is going to lose this congressional seat to Lori Buckhout, mostly because, again, this is a part of North Carolina which has been trending to the right as of late. So I think that Republicans hold on to the House seat there. So there you go. That is my House prediction. I think Republicans are going to lose 2 seats, but they are still going to retain control of the House of Representatives. As for the Senate, I believe that Republicans are going to flip the Senate, and they are going to flip 3 Senate seats there. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching this video, and make sure to like this video down below and subscribe to the channel. Mr. U.S. History, out.